Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, except for today. Today we're going to talk about my birth story. I'm a little nervous to film this video transparently because the whole experience was really traumatic, and I will be going back to therapy, so content warning for that. Nobody died, nothing like really scary, well, that's not true, it's scary to me, happened. I won't be sharing any graphic, gory photos or too many graphic, gory details. Yeah, we're just going to talk about my experience because I've vlogged this entire pregnancy, so it seems fair that I film my birth story. Ironically, I did say in the maternity leave video, that I would not film a birth story if it was traumatic. And it's like I knew, which we'll talk about mother instinct and how fucking weird that is. But I do think it's important to film this so that maybe, I don't know, someone else who might have the same or similar experiences might feel validated or know, or I don't know. So, vlog update, right? Said I was going to go to the doctor on a Monday. The Saturday, Sunday, I felt weird. Saturday, I sat in the nursery and just watched TV in the dark and napped on and off with my feet up on the wall because my feet were so swollen and I couldn't get the swelling down. I was taking my blood pressure was fine. I just felt weird, and that was the best explanation. My blood pressure was slightly elevated for me in the 130s. My blood pressure is usually in the 110 range, even pregnant. And I thought, I'm in my third trimester, I have 6 weeks left, it makes sense that it's slightly elevated, it's fine. I had no other symptoms, I had nothing other than the swelling going on, I just felt weird. Had a little bit of a headache, but the weather had been weird, so very easy to dismiss all of that. Sunday, same thing, I was exhausted and everything felt strange. Something felt weird. I had Monday off for my doctor's appointment, and I was supposed to see my friend Marissa and her husband and her baby, and we were texting, and I was like, yeah, we're going to the doctor, I should be done at this time unless things go left. Why would I think that? I don't know. Why would I have any, why would I think that? And then before we left, I was like, I need to start, now that we're in the third trimester with 6 weeks left, I need to start putting all of our things, like our electronics and the things I want to bring to the hospital, out on the table so that people know where they are and can grab them more easily. So let me go do that real quick before we leave for the appointment. Why would I do that? I was going to labor at home. Why would I think anybody needed to grab anything for me? I was just going to labor at home. Go to the doctor's. My blood pressure was 176/101. The nurse was like, that's elevated. We'll let the nurse practitioner know. We hear outside the room, the nurse practitioner goes, whose blood pressure is that? That's crazy. Then they walk in and the nurse practitioner goes, oh shit, that's your blood pressure. And then she apologized for saying, oh shit, which was still very funny to me. And she said, you have to go to the hospital now, right now. She's like, this is the ways we can get you there, but you have to go right now. Our hospital was right next door, so I told Aiden, I was like, let's just drive over, that way the car's already there. Drove over, walked in, went in, checked in, said, hey, my blood pressure was crazy, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Got kind of rushed into a room, immediately changed into a gown, people were moving very quick. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. Texted Marissa, was like, hey, I'm in labor and delivery, I don't really know what's going on, my blood pressure was high, whatever. I am starting to get very scared. My second blood pressure reading is like 180 something over 100 and something. At this point I'm starting to get really scared because I don't know what's going on. I knew about pre-eclampsia, right? And how it's like high blood pressure and whatever. I knew about that, but what I knew about it was just that once you have it, generally they just get it under control with baby aspirin or some shit, and you just continue at home until you're to term. They get it under control and it's fine. They did my urine and my protein was up like +3 or something, which is, I don't know how medical stuff works, but that's a lot. A male OB came in and he, listen, I have a lot of trauma, and actually in my birth plan it explicitly says, like, I would prefer no men where possible. So we are already out the gate not doing well. A male OB comes in. He does a cervix check, which I consented to, but then he does a membrane sweep, which I did not consent to. He then says, oh, you're going to need an epidural. I said I wasn't planning on having one, and he said, well, you probably can't handle birth if that's how you're going to react to this. Because he was forceful, and it was painful, and at that point, I think I started disassociating. I was crying a lot. I did not fully understand what was going on. I was even telling Aiden, like, don't tell my mom yet, like, we don't know if I'm going into labor. They were actively moving to induce me, and I was like, we don't know if I'm going into labor yet, like, what, blah, blah, blah. Because I didn't understand what was going on. I was signing papers, I don't know what they said, my hands were shaking, I had IVs in, okay. Aiden says that it was explained to me what the, there was a drip in my brain, can't think of what it's called. I want to say morphine, but it's not morphine. A IV thing that was given to me that helps lower your blood pressure. I cannot think of what it's called right now, because it doesn't feel like something that would be that intense, but if I think of the name, I'll put it here when I edit. I got real tired. My trauma response is to fawn or to freeze, and my freeze response is sleep. I just go to sleep. This is scary, I don't like it, it's painful, I don't like it, I go to sleep. That's what I do. So I start going to sleep. I did ask, my mom did eventually come. I did ask, hey, can we not have that doctor do any more cervix checks on me? It was very painful, and I don't think that's fair. I'm never in pain with pap smears, I'm never in pain with most gynecological things, so that's weird for me. Can we just not have him do it? I think he was too rough. They said cool, and I actually think the nurses kept him out of the room a lot. I was given a catheter, the worst. I've never had a catheter before. No, super uncomfortable, and I was hyper aware of it the entire time. Like obscenely aware of it. I was not in any pain, but I was very aware of it. They gave me miso, which is something that you either put in your mouth or you put in your nethers, to help soften and ripen and get things going. It didn't. I stayed at 2 centimeters. Then they gave me Pitocin to do the same. It didn't. And also, I was contracting, and I couldn't have told you. It didn't really hurt. I couldn't really told you. They were like, do you not feel that? And I was like, no, I don't. Because my pain tolerance is high. Fuck that doctor. What else happened? We got all my electronics and things in our go bags. We got all of those things brought to us. Everybody was there. Everybody was really caring. My mom was there, and Aiden was there, and my dad was in the waiting area and came in and out. That was Monday morning. We went in Monday morning. Monday night, or maybe Monday afternoon, they talked about wanting to do what's called a Foley balloon, which is something that they insert into your cervix and slowly expand it to help dilate you, because I was not dilating. Labor was not progressing. My body said no and fuck you. Luckily my son was head down, but he wasn't down, he just was head down, hanging out. He'd been head down for my whole pregnancy, and low. He always hung out low. But my body and my baby were both like, it's too early, fuck you, which is fair. So they talked about doing a Foley balloon. It was a midwife who came and explained that to me. When we switched to the evening shift with the midwives, I felt much more informed. I understood more of what was going on. I don't know if I was just more awake then, or if I just genuinely understood more of what was going on. They talked about it. I had just heard online how absolutely painful a Foley balloon was, and so I was like, can I get the epidural for that? And they were like, are you in pain already? And I was like, no, I just don't want to be in pain. And also, the catheter was making me crazy. The catheter was actually actively making me crazy. It was overstimulating because I was so aware of it and so uncomfortable. I was not in any pain. I was just deeply uncomfortable. I can handle pain. I can't handle discomfort. Discomfort irritates the hell out of me. And so they gave me the epidural. It didn't freak Aiden out, but he was there. They had him sit in a chair for some reason. Didn't hurt. It was a needle. Whatever. It was fine. Gave me a button to push. I said, I just don't want to feel the catheter. I'm not in any pain. I just don't want to feel the catheter. Then they'd been increasing the Pitocin, and I was contracting, wasn't really feeling it. Nothing was really progressing. They woke me up to try the Foley balloon, and my blood pressure spiked, and the baby's blood pressure dropped, or his heart rate, I'm not really sure. They immediately had to take it out. My body, I think, lost a lot of blood during that. It was not, the nurses and stuff moved very quickly. I was in and out. I don't think I fully understood what was going on, but I was in and out. Then we talked about breaking my waters, which I had been told essentially, like, don't do that because the waters cushion things and make things less painful. And so I initially had been against it, but then I was, at this point, I'd been awake for almost 24 hours. I was so tired and so done, and I just wanted the baby out of my body. I didn't know what else I would be able to do. They said, you know, let's try to get through the night and see how things progress, and then we'll talk about it in the morning. Cool. We talked about it. We weighed pros and cons. Aiden asked a lot of really good questions. God, I love my husband. He asked so many good questions this whole time because we were getting to a point where I couldn't think. He had to think for me, which was a very scary place for him, and I'm really grateful for him. Because it's very scary to make medical decisions for your wife, who is very medically independent. We talked about pros and cons. They were like, you can have your waters broken and then still go about 72 hours. I told my family, I was like, I know my biggest fear this whole time has been a C-section because I am terrified of going into surgery. Never had surgery other than wisdom teeth removal. Like, I'm scared. I said, I want a C-section. If this does not progress me by the evening, I want a C-section. I can't physically do this longer. I am too tired. And I was too tired. I'd been up off and on. They woke me up every hour to check my blood pressure. Not every hour, like every 30 minutes to check my blood pressure. I think the machine was automatically checking my blood pressure. I literally don't know. They were changing the bags and stuff. They were having me roll over so that the baby and stuff we were moving. They were increasing my Pitocin. My body was shutting down. I was so exhausted. My brain was shutting down. I couldn't think. The other thing about the thing that I can't think of the name of, that they give you, is it makes you feel drunk. It makes you feel very drunk. And so I was struggling with that because I just didn't feel good. Hold on, this should tell me. A magnesium drip. That's what I was on. It just didn't feel good. And so I was like, look, guys, I can't fucking do this anymore. And my mom was like, are you sure? You know, whatever. I want to make sure that you have as close to the birth that you wanted as possible. And I said, that ship has sailed. I'm on an epidural. I'm bedridden. I had a man be the first one to do my cervix check, and he did a membrane sweep without my consent. My entire birth plan has gone. It's left. We're not doing any of those things. So at this point, I don't give a fuck. Get this baby out of my body. I can't deal with this anymore. That was where I was at. I was like, I literally can't do this anymore. I didn't want an induction. I didn't want any of the things that were currently happening to be my labor story, and they all were my labor story. One of the midwives who came, they broke my waters. The night shift nurse broke my water, or midwife, God bless the midwives, broke my waters, and then she had to leave. The midwives who came in, one of them was a midwife in training that had actually listened to my baby's heartbeat beforehand. We'd met, we'd had some rapport, so that was really comforting, because I didn't know a lot of the people either. My doctor was not on shift and she was on vacation, so she wasn't even able to come in. And so I didn't know any of the people that were interacting with my body, which was very scary, other than, you know, my mom and my husband. As somebody who has PTSD from assault, it is very scary to have so many strangers interacting with your body and you being so out of it that you can't even really process what's happening. That's very scary. Or it was for me. We did all of those things, and we broke the waters. It must have been afternoon by then, because when we broke the water, things escalated really quickly. So yeah, it had to have been 11 or 12 by then. Time at this point is very weird for my brain. I have no idea. On Tuesday, like I would say an hour later, I went from 2 centimeters dilated to 9 centimeters dilated. They were like, okay, cool. Let us know if you feel the specific feeling. They walked away, and like 10 minutes later, I was like, hey, Aiden, get all those people back in here. I have to push. At that point, things moved real quick. I pushed for maybe 30 minutes. He's not a very big guy. My baby was not a very big guy. I pushed for maybe 10 minutes, up in the stirrups, on my back. None of the ways I wanted to give birth, but it's okay. Luckily, he was very small. Pushed, and Aiden on my side. My mom was like around, I don't know. She was like, I'll go rub your back. Let me go rub your back. And I was like, don't touch me. Which I distinctly remember, and then I was like, I'm sorry, just don't touch me. Another thing that's kind of funny is I had a stroller fan, because I know I get hot, and so every time they'd roll me over to face a different direction, I was like, move the fan, because, like the whole time I was in labor, because getting hot is even worse than being any kind of uncomfortable. So they're also like moving this fan that straps onto things side to side to make sure I don't die of heat. I was like, Mom, I just need you to push the button. Just push the button when I tell you to push the button. And it's the epidural button. It wasn't that bad, the pain. I think for me, it was just that I was just so tired and so exhausted that I was like, I don't want to feel anything. I want to feel nothing. I just want to get through this. I think if my labor had gone the way I wanted to go, I genuinely think I could have handled the contractions and the pain of needing to push and all of that. I think I could have handled it and been just fine, actually. It was just the fear and all of that making it very hard. And a lot of people say that the fear of the unknown is what makes pain so much worse, and that's very much what was happening. I pushed for like 30 minutes, and the crazy thing is Aiden's holding my hand. I'm pushing. He's coaching me through it in an amazing way. Like, we didn't even have time to finish the birth classes we were taking, and he was doing amazing. He wasn't saying things that would just piss me off. He was like, you got this, babe. We're almost done. We're gonna have a baby at the end of this. Like, once you're done with this, we're done. We are done, and we are never doing this again. Like, we looked at each other, and he was like, we're never doing this again, because he wanted a second. And I was like, no, we're literally never doing this again. But then, as I'm pushing, and the baby's head starts to come out, they're pulling his head out, Aiden's voice just, like, changed. And he was like, that's our baby son. Our baby son is here, babe. You're so close. There he is. He's beautiful. He's perfect. Like, his voice just changed. And I think that is what got me through the last couple of pushes, was just like Aiden's shift. They put him on my tummy. I couldn't see him. I hadn't seen him at all. Had not laid eyes on that baby at all. This is where things are going to be a little bit even harder for me to talk about. Did not lay eyes on him at all. But I was holding around. I was just like, hi. What the fuck? My mom cut the umbilical cord. Crazy. And then they took him over to the thing, and Aiden went with them in the same room. And they're cleaning him up and weighing him and doing all of those things. He was 4 pounds, 12 ounces, 18 inches long, I think. Maybe 15 inches long. I don't remember. 16. I don't know. Somewhere in that range. He was perfect, other than being small and early and needing a little bit of help with the pressure of breathing. He could do it. He just needed a little bit of assistance. Not a lot. Nothing else was wrong. He's all 10 fingers and toes. He was perfect. I delivered the placenta. Gross. My mom and Aiden both looked at it. It was super calcified. It was like 75% calcified. I have since read the placenta report. There was a blood clot. There was some signs of infection somehow. And if I had not had a doctor's appointment on that Monday, I don't, and waited, I think, any more days, I don't know that me and or my baby would be here today, actually. I think it is incredible that I had a doctor's appointment, incredible that all of the vibes were like, something's wrong, I know something's wrong, but nothing is saying that it's wrong, but something's wrong, and I know that it's wrong. And it was that my body was like trying to provide for this placenta that was dying, and calcifying actively. My body was like working overtime to try and fix it, but my body also, I think, has been so used to blood pressure issues and heart rate issues that it was also compensating. I don't know, that's a guess. They stitched me up, and then they took the baby to the NICU. I did not get to hold him again. I did not get to see his face without the wires. Because I was on the mag drip, I was not able or allowed to hold or see my baby for 24 hours. I had to be off the mag drip for 24 hours before I could see him. So we spent the night trying to get my blood pressure under control. When they, there was a moment where like the shift change was happening and my IVs were out and we couldn't get a nurse in the room, and I felt like, let me be clear, my hospital was wonderful, and this is one of the 2 negative experiences I had. I felt like I'd given birth and nobody cared anymore about me. When I got transferred to what's called antepartum, which generally you're in there before you give birth, I was in there because I was still under critical care because my blood pressure was still so high. The nurses didn't check to make sure the catheter was fine, and it had kinked, and I spent most of the night with a kinked catheter, so that when the night person finally realized what was going on, she was like, "Are you drinking enough water? We're giving you fluids. I don't understand why this catheter bag is empty." It filled almost 4 catheter things when she finally fixed it, and then I was scared the whole time of the catheter. My first shower was in the hospital bed. I spent the day trying to stay calm so that my blood pressure would go down so that I could see my baby. I finally got to see him in the evening and hold him for the first time. We did skin to skin, but he was covered in wires, and he was this big, and he was covered in wires. I didn't get to see him without wires all over his face until almost 2 weeks after he had been born. I was still so tired and on so many medications that it was very hard for me to make it to the NICU for the first couple of days. So Aiden would go and he would FaceTime me. They set up a camera called Angel Eyes so that you can see your baby in the NICU, which was beautiful and wonderful, and I'm thankful for that. I would be like, "Oh, I'm watching my favorite Twitch streamer." I was pumping while watching him on a stream, and every day I didn't know when I would get to go home or when he would get to go home. Nobody got to hold him before me, which was both wonderful that my hospital did that, but also I felt so sad for him. And yeah, you know, the NICU nurses were wonderful and patient and helpful, and I am so thankful for them. I'm so thankful for everybody that came into my hospital room, the nurses and the doctors. I had one nurse that just sat with me and we talked about books. My blood pressure didn't relax, didn't get under control until the following Sunday. I was there for almost a week. Every day that I could, we went and saw the baby 3 or 4 times, but that was still really hard. It was really hard. It was a very hard experience. When I finally got to go home and I went home without my baby, people were saying, "Hope you enjoyed the newborn bubble," and it was like, I have to drive to the hospital every day. So I can't. I felt so bad the day I gave birth. The night Marissa was texting me and was like, "How does it feel to be on this side of motherhood?" And I was like, I haven't gotten to hold my baby, so I don't know. Give me a second. So, sorry. Wow, I don't think I've ever been this emotional even talking about like my husband's stuff. We got to take him home about 2 weeks after he was born. They had been saying he'd be there for 6 weeks, which, by the way, if you see the NICU bill, God bless America that we did not God bless America, opposite of that, because Jesus Christ, that bill is the amount of a house payment. My insurance covered a lot of it, but we still have $5,000, and then $7,000 on mine. What the fuck? Anyway, yeah, so, we got to bring him home. First night, he didn't want to sleep in his bassinet because he was like, fuck you guys, where's my noise that I'm used to? The NICU staff were wonderful. My mom went every morning to feed him. I went every afternoon to feed him for 2 of his feedings. We stood there for 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours every day. At one point, my car battery died twice, and I was freaking out because we weren't going to make it in time to his touch times, which is when like they would wake him up to do all this stuff. I was breastfeeding. The lactation consultants and everything were super helpful. He was on donor milk for the first 5 days. They were like, we're going to extend it a little bit because he's got a little bit more and you've been providing enough, so we've been doing half and half. And then finally he was fully, he was on my milk and fortified milk, and then they eventually took him off the fortified milk and he was just solely on my milk. That was crazy. That's still crazy that he's fully on fed by me. That's a wild concept. And yeah, it's been 9 weeks. He is double his birth size already, which is cool. Having a preemie is interesting because a lot of the things are like, these are the milestones most babies at 2 months have met, but you have a 6-week wiggle room. That is 2.5 months of a wiggle room. What are you talking about? Or no, that's 1.5 months of a wiggle room. What are you talking about? So yeah, that's my birth story. If things feel weird to you, if you're a mama and things feel weird to you, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor and tell them things feel weird. Tell them to look at things. Although I wasn't showing any symptoms. I developed it so suddenly and so severely that they couldn't have caught it. It is a miracle that they caught it. I don't talk about miracles or whatever. But it is a miracle. I will not be doing this again. I will never be getting pregnant again. If I can help it. We're gonna avoid it as best as possible. Yeah, pregnancy was a time. It was uncomfortable. It challenged me. I think that it was the hardest thing I've ever put my body through. Labor, 30 hours. He was born at 1:59 p.m. I went into hospital on Tuesday. I went on the hospital on a Monday at like 10 a.m. 30 hours of labor. 1 hour of like active labor though. And he's cute as fuck. I'm not gonna show you guys, but he's super cute. He's super cute. And he's perfect. Everything came out that he's perfect. I am still dealing with high blood pressure. Not so much anymore. I'm currently on a much lower dose of medication than I was before. I talk about this in some of my vlogs, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but I'm on a much lower dose of my medication than I was before. A different medication. It is keeping me stable. I'm able to take my Adderall again. That's great. I'm back at work. Things are turning up. Things are good. We're figuring it out. For a while there, it felt like it was just gonna never get figured out, and my blood pressure was never gonna get under control, and that I was never gonna be able to be medicated for my mental health again, and I was really struggling, but things are leveling out. Things are okay. I have a wonderful support system, and I highly recommend if you're having a baby to have a wonderful in-person support system, not just virtually, although I love my virtual support system, and I think that they helped a lot. Having people in the UK that were awake when I was awake at 2 a.m., incredible. Still incredible, since I'm still up at 2 a.m. because I still have the baby at home. It was the scariest experience of my entire life, the closest to death I've ever been, the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced, the most incredible thing I've ever done. I will never be doing it again. Like I said, sorry for crying on camera. This is not my normal shtick. I am going to therapy. I'm going to be going to therapy. I'm looking for a therapist next week who specializes in postpartum because I now have a lot of trauma. I go in and get my blood pressure taken at the doctor's office, and it's really high because I'm panicking that I'm going to be put in the hospital. Right. That's it. That's the video. I'm not going to do my normal spiel because that feels weird to do at the end of this video, but I do post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, except for the first full week of the month. So I will see you later on this week for the vlog. And that's it. Hug your loved ones. take your meds, drink your water, take lots of good care of yourselves, and trust your body when you feel like something is wrong. I will see you later, and I will not be crying in the next video. Okay, thanks, bye.